Hello everyone, welcome to Learn Data Structures and Algorithm in Python course. In today's lecture, we'll be solving an interesting problem on stack. This is called valid parenthesis. So you'll be given a string containing characters like square braces, then round braces, right? Then you have to tell is the string valid or not, and what are the conditions. First, an open brackets must be closed by the same type of bracket, and an open bracket must be closed in the correct order, and every close bracket has a corresponding open bracket to the same type. If you take the first example, so this open bracket, this round bracket has a closing bracket, and this is valid because they are in same order. But if we rearrange them, first closing bracket comes, then open bracket comes, that will be false, right? So if we take this example also, for each open bracket there is a closing bracket, and these are in correct order, right? So if you take this one, this is false, right? So open bracket has closing bracket, but they're different. This is round bracket, this is square bracket, right? That's why it is false. So let's take an example. Let's take this one, this, okay, then this one, then this, and ultimately this. So is this valid? No, right? This is not valid. Every open bracket has a closing bracket, but the order is not same, right? So they are not in correct order. So if we write like this, and inside that this is this, then let's say this one, this is valid, right? So what we have to do, for each open bracket there should be a closing bracket. That is the condition. That is the condition. If we write like this, so first this, then let's say this one, then open braces, then let's say closing braces, then this one, then this. This is also not valid, right? Because they are not arranged in the correct order. Now, if we let's take this one, this, and this. Now tell me, this is valid or not? Not valid. Because why? Actually, the length of the string is not even. Is not even. So there are many ways to check. First, how to check? First, we'll be checking the length of the string. Is the length of the string is even or not? Because to balance the parentheses, let's say I have a open braces, then to balance this I have to be a round close braces, right? Round close bracket, that have to be there, and that will be in the same order, right? So first condition is the length will be even. Length have to be even. Now let's say a string is start with close bracket. Now tell me, is this string valid? No, right? Because at the starting, if we find any close bracket, that means that is not valid. That is not valid. First, first there should be a open bracket to balance this. Now, how to do that? How to do that? Let's take a string. Let's take this one, then this, okay, then this one, then this, then let's take this one, okay, and then this. Now, how to do that? To do that, we'll take stack. We'll take stack. How? Let's discuss. Let's say if I find any open bracket, okay, open bracket, then what we'll do? We'll immediately put this bracket inside the stack. Okay. Now let's say if I find any closing bracket, okay, then what we'll do? I will check at the stack. I'll check for the peak element at the stack. Now, if I find the peak element is open bracket, peak element is open bracket and current bracket is closing bracket, then what will do? I'll just pop this thing. I'll just pop this thing. So this is the process. This is the process. I'll just pop this thing. I can ignore, right? Because if a open bracket has a closing bracket, that means they are balanced. So we don't have to check it again. So we can ignore this. And at last, we'll check if the stack is empty. That means they are balanced. So how to do that? Let's discuss. First, first, let's for this example, let's take a stack. Okay, let's take a stack. Okay, then what we'll do? First, we'll check for the length. Now, what is the length? What is the length? Length is 8, right? Length is 8. That means it is even. Length is 8. That means it is even. So there is possibility that this string could be balanced. Okay, first, then what we'll do, first we'll check for the first element. So is the first, sorry, not element, so the first character, is the first character is any closing bracket, is the first character is any closing bracket, like this or this? No, right? No. That means, yeah, we can check further, we can go further to check. Okay, first we have find open bracket. Okay, when we find any open bracket, what we'll do, we'll push in the stack. Okay, we'll push in the stack. Okay, done. Then we move to the next character. Okay, now what is this, open bracket or closing bracket? Open bracket, right? Then what we'll do, again we'll push. Okay, again we'll push. Okay, done. Then we move to this. Okay, what we'll do, this is open bracket, right? So what we'll do, we'll push here. Okay, done. Then we'll move to next element, next character. Then we find a closing bracket, right? We find a closing bracket. If it is open bracket, then we can directly push it. But when we find closing bracket, then the next thing, what is the next thing? The next thing we have to check. We have to check. What do we check? We'll be checking at the peak element. So if this is the closing bracket, so what will be the open bracket to balance this? There should be a open curly bracket, right? So we'll check. So current character is this. So to balance this, we'll check, is the peak element, is any open bracket, open curly bracket? If it is there, then what we can do, we'll pop this thing. That means we'll forget this thing. Then what we'll do, we'll move to next thing. That means they are balanced, right? We can ignore this. Then we can go to this character. Okay, is this open bracket? No, right? This is closing bracket. Then what we'll do, we'll check for so this is close bracket, right? So to balance this, what will be the, this will be, right? This this bracket should be at the peak. So what is in the peak, in the stack? This is open round braces, right? Open round braces. That's why we can ignore this thing. Okay, we can ignore this thing. That means this is done. Okay, then what we'll do, we'll move to next character. Okay, now what is this? This is an open bracket, right? Then what we'll do, we can directly push this. Then we'll move to the next character. What is this? This is closing bracket, right? Closing curly bracket. Then what we'll do, we'll check for the peak element. Is the peak element is open curly bracket? Yes, open curly bracket. Then what we can do, we can pop this thing, and here also we can pop this thing. That means this is balanced. Okay, then we'll move to here. So this is closed square braces, right? Closed square bracket. Then we'll check at the peak. Is in the peak, it is open square bracket? Yes, it is open square bracket. Then what we can do, we can pop this thing and remove this also, forget this also. That means now the stack is empty. That means when the stack is empty, that means there are no such character left. That means it is balanced. Right? So for each open bracket, there are correct order close bracket. That means this is balanced. So let's say, uh, let's consider a different example. Let's say, let's see like this, and then let's say this, and then this one. Okay, then this, and after this. Okay, now let's remove this. Okay, now let's check. Now first go to first character. What is this? This is open bracket, right? Then what we'll do, we'll push this. Okay, done. This is done. Then we'll be going to this character. Okay, what is this? This is open bracket, right? Then we'll push this. Done. Then just move to current. Next, what is this? This is open bracket, right? Then just push this. Now let's go to here. Now what is the thing? So this is closing bracket, right? Now tell me, at the top, is this open parenthesis? No, right? So to balance this, to balance this thing, we will be required an open parenthesis. So this is not. That means what we'll do, we'll just push this thing again. Okay, then this is done. This is done. If we don't find anything, what we'll do, we'll just simply post this. Only when we find any closing bracket, then only we can pop. We check, then we'll pop if that matches. Then what we'll do, we'll move to here. Now, this is closing bracket, this is closing bracket, right? Then we'll check. Whatever the peak, whatever the peak, what is the peak? The peak is this closing bracket, right? But to balance this, we require open curly braces. So is this present here at the top? No, right? Then what we'll do, we'll just put this again, put this again. Okay, then we'll go to move to next. Okay, here, what is there? Closing square bracket, right? To balance this, we have to check at the peak. So to balance this, what we require? We require this open square bracket, right? So is there open square bracket at the top? No, right? That means what we'll do, we'll put this thing. Now if you see, the stack is not empty. The stack is not empty. That means brackets are not balanced. Brackets are not balanced, because if they're balanced, then every element in the stack should be popped out. The stack should be empty. As this is not empty, then we can say this is not valid. This is not valid. This parentheses are not valid. So first thing what we do, we'll check for the length. If length is even, then we can go further. Then second thing what we'll do, we can check for the first character. Okay, if this is closing bracket, any of the closing bracket, then you can simply return false. We don't have to check anything, we don't have to take any stack or something like that. Then third step what we'll do, we'll check if these are open bracket. Okay, if these are open bracket, then we can directly push. Otherwise, if these are closing bracket, if these are closing bracket, if these are closing bracket, then you can check and only pop when we find the corresponding open bracket, right? Then only we can do this. Now let's write the code for this. So first, what we'll do, what we'll do first, we'll check. So let's calculate the length. So let's say if the length of the string, okay, if this is even, so that means if this modulo 2 not equals to 0, that means we can return false. Because the length, if the length is not even, then there is no way to check that. That means this is not balanced. So then another condition, if the first character, that means s of 0, if this is either of this closing bracket, that means then this one, then or this, or this one, then we can directly return false. Return false, right? Otherwise what we'll do, we'll iterating through this character, right? So for each character in the string, for each character what we'll do, first we'll check if this character is in open bracket, so any of this one, so this or this, or let's say this, then what we'll do, we'll just directly push this thing in the stack. So okay, first we have to consider a stack. So let's take st equals to empty list. So st dot append, and what will append, will append the character. Okay, done. This is the first condition. Now else if character equals to any of this closing bracket. Okay, any of this closing bracket, and then what will check, uh, first we have to check if stack is not empty, and then what will check if the peak of the stack, so st of top is equals to the open bracket associated with it, then what we can do, we can just pop this item. Okay, we can pop this item, and we'll do the same thing for the remaining brackets. Okay, so here it will be this one, and here will be open curly braces, then this is, that will be this, and that will be open bracket. Okay, so this is done. But if the condition doesn't satisfy it, then what we'll do, we'll just simply append this thing, append this ch. Okay, then at last what we'll check, at last we'll check if the stack is empty or not, and that will return. So we'll just return stack is not empty. Right, now let's try to run this. Let me check. Yeah, and let's try to submit. So here